Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating in my studio. Every day I share a video with you on YouTube in which I paint and create all sorts of nature-inspired pictures. I also share loads of tips on how to make the most of your painting journey, interrupted fairly frequently by our family of dogs, cats, chickens and sheep. So welcome on board, click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolour. Hi everyone and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you some of my work in progress and how I develop a painting that I'm going to make a video from. And so I'm starting off here. I'm thinking butterflies today, so I'm looking online, finding some ideas of how to present this. And so I did a quick sketch in charcoal. Well, not charcoal really, it's a Conte pencil, which I'm finding very amenable at the moment. Conte à Paris, French thing. I'll put a link in the description below for that. So just playing around really, and then having gone through that, I'm going to I took a piece of sketch paper and tried out some colour combinations and some shapes and things. And so now the next stage in working on this, because I don't have any firm idea yet at the moment what's going to happen, and what I'm going to do on this piece of paper isn't going to be the final answer either. Still working on colours and so on, and I'm surrounded here by my various different selections. I've got my Aviva colour sheets here. I've got this St. Petersburg White Nights set. I've got all my usual Winsor & Newton colours, my Schminke colours and so on, all of the ones that I normally use in this arrangement, which is the way I keep my paints normally prior to starting a painting. So I can say, oh, I'm going to paint with Winsor violet and lemon yellow and olive green or whatever, and I just take them off of there. And I've also got my set of assorted Winsor & Newton and Schminke and so on paints in there. Should I wish to use some of those colours, I've got some unusual ones there like Davies Grey. And yeah, so I'm in one of those moods today where I'm not quite sure what I want to do. So this is basically an exploration and thinking butterflies and so on. And I'm thinking I've got my glass pen here, which I'm keen on at the moment. And so let's see what happens if I sit down. Because this is the way you want to work, isn't it? You don't want to necessarily set off with a particular firm idea of something you're going to copy, but you want to explore. So I'm thinking sort of knapweed, which is the flower that has kind of pink, purpley heads coming, you know, what do you call it? Pink things coming out the top. And then it has a lot of texture in the head, and then the stem comes down and it has these thin leaves come out like that, and then butterflies seem to be attracted to this, so you might kind of put in a butterfly. Like that, perhaps. And so, having thought about that and done a little bit of a sketch, I'm thinking, what colour would I paint? So I've got some red. So, and then maybe some green down below here and in the leaves. I'm doing this sketch on Clairefontaine Etival watercolour paper, which is cellulose paper, but it has a nice texture and it's not expensive, and it works quite well for very well actually for a beginner's paper. So you can try different techniques. So for example, if you lay in your watercolour first and then put your ink on, then you get a kind of running effect. If you put in the ink first and then it's dry when you put in the paint, it's not going to run in the same way once it's dry. And two different effects. So I would say this was what you might call a loosening up, a kind of it's actually really quite cold in the studio today, and we're going to be putting in some air conditioning, but the first thing that air conditioning is going to be used for is going to be to actually warm the place up, ironically. I'm going to use a nice lemon, a yellow. I'm going to use chrome yellow, I think, from Viviva for the butterfly. So lovely, clean colour, not easy to get something like that with. Hello, hello cat, don't you knock that over. What was I saying? Okay, I have no idea. Yeah, so let's try another one of these. So a sort of thin kind of stem, and then a round sort of body sort of thing. And then I was using Carmine, the White Night Carmine, which is quite nice pink. And then you could put in a little bit of quinacridone gold, and then nice to drop in some ink. You see what that did? I'm not sure if you're helping, actually, Pussycat. Not sure about that at all. So that's my kind of preliminary sketch at this particular moment in time, which I'm not completely unhappy with. And I'm not sure where we're going to go from here, but I thought I would have a look with you at one of my palettes in case anybody's interested in alternative ways of painting. Looking at this, what I've used here is basically quinacridone gold, olive green and alizarin crimson. And for the purposes of demonstration, I usually have those colours set out in little dishes like that, then with one more to mix in, to use as a kind of mixing palette or some other kind of platform to mix on. But a way that you might want to set out your paints, for example, is like this. This is a cheap palette. I think when I bought these, I got half a dozen of them. They were about £1 each or something like that. And in each of these little indentations, for beginners who might not know about this, I have put paint from a tube. So I often, not always, but often buy my paints in tubes. If I can't get tubes, then I'll buy blocks, you know, little square things, and pans, that's the word. Anyway, so I've got here my normal palette of colours, which is raw sienna, burnt sienna, and all the browns coming through the yellows into the blues and the reds. And then the colours that I use most often, what I do is I put some of those in the middle here so that I can mix more easily. And what I'm doing at the moment is what I would normally do when I start a session, which is to wet the whole thing down a little bit. Then I'm going to get a little bit of watercolour paper, kitchen towel, and just clean my mixing area on this one, which is my general mixing area. And then on this particular palette, when I'm in this particular mood, I've got my reds, my greens, my blues, and my yellows. So this would be for painting where I was going to use quite a lot of colours, wouldn't it? Rather than one where I was only going to use one or two, ideally. So yeah, here we've got cadmium yellow, quinacridone gold. This looks like yellow ochre, and I'm not sure what that colour is. Let's find out. Not sure. Different from that though. That's definitely cadmium. I think that must be lemon yellow. Quinacridone gold. Completely different. And yellow ochre, which is a kind of dulled down version. We've got ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, and phthalo blue here, the 4 blues that you need. And here we've got olive green, sap green, phthalo green, and probably, I don't know, maybe I've got 2 olive greens here. That looks like olive green to me, so assume that's what that is. We've got cadmium red, alizarin crimson, permanent rose, and scarlet lake, probably an orangey red. So what am I going to do now? I ask myself. I've got a piece of stretched paper here. This is Arch's pastel paper with a laid finish. I stretched it. It's a £90 paper. Once it's stretched, it won't buckle, and so that will be quite nice to work on. And I'm just thinking I'm going to sit down and pick up my pen and just trying to decide whether to use, what colour ink to use. Maybe I'll use blue. I've got some Prussian blue here, which I don't think I've used before. So maybe I'll give that a try. I have no idea what will happen if I use this. I can pretty much guarantee that nothing is going to explode. So I did say I was thinking about butterflies, didn't I? And what I think I might do is go back to that. It's a good start. Getting the wings of the butterfly symmetrical and also looking natural is actually quite surprisingly hard. So it's good to practice. Surprising how much ink the glass pen will hold. I'm just randomly and loosely drawing butterflies, doing the figure of 8, just very loose. And then I'm thinking I'm going to put a loose arrangement of knapweed flowers and leaves behind it. Behind what I've already done. So just putting in some stems. And some leaves. And once we've got these in, we'll see about colour. We want to try to vary the pressure on the paper that you're putting on the pen. And maybe up here I might start at the top. filling up the whole thing. And where there is no stem, just put some leaves in free fall. Don't be afraid to make them go behind the butterflies and so on. Okay, well, having done that, which may or may not be a success, the thing is now what we have to do is think about our colour scheme and what we're going to use. And like I said, I do like to stick with a limited palette. I'm thinking I might add mauve and green to that. So we'll have quinacridone gold, alizarin crimson, Windsor violet, and olive green. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to start off, I'm going to wet. Okay, so there's my first interesting experience. This ink is not waterproof. So I'm going to change everything. This is going to be a monochromatic painting. We are simply going to add water to what we've drawn. Because I didn't realise, but this ink is not waterproof. That doesn't matter. It might be quite interesting. I knew something unexpected was going to happen today. So the water brush is ideal for this. You just let enough water out for the whole thing to run in a semi-controlled kind of way. This is going to be a definite case of less is more. Just pulling out from the center there and then running around the edge. And then I'm going to wet the body on this one. And then the whole wing. And then if I wanted to put some dots on there, I could easily come in once it's dry and add some dotty bits. So the key is to just partially wet, allowing it to be a variation in tone and so on and so forth. And some of them you might want to do very light, so just don't go over the lines, just go near to them and let that kind of thing happen. It's very exciting. Completely unexpected. Where I've done the lines very thin, it's going to be obviously less blue. So we'll make this butterfly really light. And again, as I said, if you want to come in with some more ink later, darken it down. This one should probably be quite dark. If I let it. Yes, it really is flowing in quite a pleasing way. So we're going to end up with a monochrome painting here. Very stylish. Okay, I think that's gone over most of that. So now the thing to do is to let that dry and see whether once it's dry it needs any extra lines in it. And my colours are completely redundant. That is not what's going to happen today, so we can remove those from field of view. And yeah, we'll come back when that's dry. So it's dry now, and I think probably we want to just sharpen up a few of the darks on here, and for example around the body area of the butterfly and so on, just to make it look a bit better. And maybe we might put some decoration in on the edges, perhaps. I don't know. See how it goes. These probably want to be a little bit more graphic lines on there, perhaps. Need to keep a certain amount of distinction between the sort of lightness of the butterflies and the heaviness of the relative heaviness, anyway, of the seed flowers. They're not really seed heads, they were actually flowers, so they are going to be more linear. And I think probably I should have had one down here. Maybe that would be a good idea, so we'll put another one in here. And then we'll want to just soften that a bit with the amazing water. And then perhaps, I don't know, do we want one over here as well? Is that enough? It might be enough. I like the contrast of the fuzzy lines with the dry lines. There's some parts here though where I think perhaps we might want to bring in a bit more of the blue on this side here, perhaps on that one. Maybe down here a bit too. Just want to get an overall balance, but with a bit of variety. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we need another one down here. Or maybe here, maybe both. Perhaps a smaller one here in the distance, perhaps. Joining up to down there. And then maybe one over here. And I suppose if I can make some fine lines Yes, if. Probably want to put in some veins. Okay, well, I think that'll do for now. I don't want to continue with that any further because I think I'll probably spoil any virtue it might have. So there's the final painting. Not at all what I expected to produce this morning when I started with my various sketches. That is to say, my original concept and then my first watercolor explorations. But then we've kind of come back full circle, I suppose, to something more or less monochromatic. And perhaps it's because I started with this that I ended up with this. Though it's partly to do with the fact that I chose to use blue ink, which was not waterproof. And then we had to go with the flow, so to speak, and turn it into a monochromatic study, which is quite interesting, and you might want to give that a try. The ink that I used is a Sennelier ink, and it says water soluble, so it's not as if I shouldn't have known. I should have known, and that's fine, whatever. It was exciting, good to do, quite happy with the result. I hope you enjoyed watching me do that. I will be back tomorrow with something perhaps a little bit more planned out. Today's one of those days. I have a lot of them. You learn to live with it if you're me. So I'm going to go and have some lunch now, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now, everyone. Bye bye.